for sure, it's these made up differences that we have, this tribal nature that we have. Once we overcome that, which I think in the next 100 years is very plausible, just with the speed of technology and augmented reality and future humans are going to be we're going to be unrecognizable. Like Homo sapien will be a completely different species, essentially, because of the technology and the technological developments, where race won't even be a factor.
I'm optimistic that AI is going to fix our problems. I know that sounds like a little bit too optimistic, but I feel like AI, this is the problem. I don't think people will trust AI. AI will give us a lot of hard truths. Things like nothing matters, and if I killed you, it wouldn't make a difference, and you'd be better off. Things like that, which I don't, but also, I don't know.
That's going to be the next civil rights conversation in the next 100 years.
Oh, yeah,
for rights for AI.
Right, and the what we need to focus on now is to make sure that elites and the super wealthy, I mean, they'll have the money to augment themselves while other people won't. So we'll have two different species in the same, of human, essentially. Yeah. So it's not even the class that's the problem or the race that's the problem. And that's why we need to figure out, how do we make this available for everybody, because we're better together on the same level than othering,
Yeah, but it's you wonder how you kind of wonder how what am I trying to say here? There's a level of hypocrisy. So if you have AI, very intelligent AI integrated into the wealthy, it wouldn't make much sense for them to do primitive things like have classes when, in theory, they know better, right? Because they're so smart. You would think that would help even things out in the long run, but you never know. Maybe there's just a blind spot there. I don't know.
Yeah. We need to make sure the people that are developing this software have good intentions. That's that's important.
They can omit all kinds of facets of the AI. Mm-hmm. You're all amygdala, no neocortex. We've talked about this, I think.
Yeah, your amygdala's showing, you piece of shit. Wait.
Hey, lizard brain. They're worried about everybody being lizards, but they're the ones using their lizard brains so much.
Isn't it funny, the amount of projection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many. It's so weird how that's just one of a handful of ironies about them.
Right. It's the most...
the media thing. Again. Sorry, what were you saying?
I'm letting you talk.
No, I didn't. They don't like the media, but they hate Muslims. We talked about that already.
Right.
Man, you guys are fucking dumb. I'm sorry, they just are. And they feel entitled to being smart. I can just be right if I want to be. No, you can't. That's not how it works. No. It is. No, you can't. Sorry, I'm going to take this away from you now.
Right. Anybody who has definitive answers to every question is the least intelligent person in the room.
I don't trust the vaccine. Yeah, the vaccine has less mRNA in it than the actual virus. And the virus actually has mRNA that can replicate. So you make no fucking sense. Oh, only 99% of people, or 99.9% of people live for coronavirus. And then the vaccine comes out and has way better survival rates. I mean, no one's dying from any of these. And they're like, oh my God, it's so unsafe. Yeah, you're a fucking dullard. You're stupid. You're stupid. Oh, also, stupid people exist, by the way. They're real. They're not everybody's not entitled to be intelligent. You have to fucking work, and you have to have a competitive environment to uphold these things. People become stupid because everybody's entitled to whatever they want to be. And it's no, you go to Switzerland, everybody's has their education system is don't be an idiot.
That's day one of kindergarten.
There's so much more competitive. They learn 3 languages. They are in calculus when they're in 9th grade, what our equivalent is in 9th grade. They can, it's just dude, you guys Americans are so stupid.
Right.
And that's generalizing. I'm just saying a very alarming portion of our country is extremely uneducated. And it's snowballing right now.
Yeah, we're not trained to think. We're never taught to think. And that's why comedians are so important, because we look at these constructs and we ask questions, we challenge them.
We squander our privilege by being comedians.
Yeah.
I could have been an engineer. It's not like it takes a genius to be an engineer, but I'm just saying, like, I could have done things with my life, but
that's my St. Patrick's t-shirt. It says, "Kiss me, I'm squandered white privilege."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do what I want too, because I'm not like, it's not like I can't do those things, but I don't have the discipline either. I'm doing what I should be doing, honestly.
Right. And that kind of goes into school shootings, like the response people have when there's mass shootings. It's like, what's going to stop you made this joke last night, like a good guy with a gun is who stops a bad guy with a gun.
Yeah.
So what logic is that when the good guy with the gun is too scared to use it?
Yeah.
There's no logic there.
You just go look at statistics. You're just statistically more likely to die from an accident than you are of protecting yourself. Like these are, it's like with the vaccine and the virus. People don't want to get on a plane because they're afraid of a plane crashing, but you're more likely to die in a car.
Yeah,
because the virus itself. Get on the plane.
For the anti-maskers, it's like
die of the virus.
we wear a jacket every single day, but how many people really die from hypothermia?
Yeah,
minimalist numbers, the most minimalist of numbers, and yet we all wear a jacket.
Yeah. Right.
So
that's a good point. This is for your own good.
Right.
Like this is, we're not making you wear a mask because it's some sort of government program. Like we want you to wear a mask because we want you to be healthy and live and not carry the virus and transmit it to other people.
They're conditioning us.
When it's cold out and I see somebody in a scarf, I'm like, they're just living their life in fear.
Sheep.
China created this virus to create a huge mess with no real end game.
Right.
Just destroy the whole planet, and then they gain something. I don't know. It's more likely.
That's the funny thing to me is that the thing that these people fear is ambiguity, right? To know that there isn't necessarily an answer. That like science is open-ended. Science will always be open-ended. No one's going to be like, that's why it's the theory of evolution. We're 99.9% sure it's a thing, but there are scientists to this day that are challenging it and trying to get like further into it. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the whole point.
That and ambiguity, not knowing have an answer is scary because for all of humanity, we've had the answer. It's God, or it's, there's always an answer. And now that more and more people are educated, it's scaring the people who want to have a definitive answer. You can't.
You're not entitled to understanding anything.
Right.
That's the problem people have. They think that they have an entitlement to understanding everything when you really don't. There's no guidebook besides the Bible that tells you, what you need to know.
Yeah.
At least to them.
And that's the thing that's
that's such a good joke.
It's the employee handbook, man.
Yeah.
That's it. And for so long through our history, if there was ever a question, the answer was either in the Bible or we don't need to know that answer because it's not in the Bible. So,
jeez,
I'm going to rename the Bible. I'm going to rename the Bible to everything you wanted to know about life, but we're too afraid to ask about it.
There's nothing about spiders' mating patterns in here. We don't need to know about it. I just got a book. I just ordered a book. It's called Think Again. It's basically about challenging your own certainties. Because this is what I'm finding in my speaking is we're married to answers. Like we don't do well with uncertainty, and that's where comedians thrive, is in uncertainty. I don't know if this joke is going to work, but that's exciting, to take this new joke on stage. I don't know if I'm right about this, but it's exciting when I get you to laugh because you can at least see my point of view. Like we revel in uncertainty.
One of the few things I don't have an opinion on is how much shutting down we should have done and why. And
I don't know.
We'll never know what it would have been like had we not. But
Right.
I think I know what could have happened, but I still don't. I just don't know. And I hate answering those kind of questions. I don't have an answer.
For so many people wanting certainty, if Donald Trump would have just said, "This is a big deal, wear a mask," we wouldn't be having this conversation.
You would have been reelected too.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
yeah,
actually, it would have been weird though, because it just doesn't go with the consistency of his platform. So it's weird. You never know. He just wouldn't. He would not stray away from his game. And his game was no masks because that's the conservative libertarian view.
Yeah, make me because if there's mask, that's the sign that I'm not doing a good job as president.
He can't have uncertainty. He has to be decisive. He's not
also
decisive.
how strong is our economy that we can't just shut down for 6 weeks and have 90% of the population just stay home? Like, is it that strong of an economy? I don't think so, because you can't shut it down for a couple of weeks while everyone just kind of like rides this. Like, if we would have done that as a society, who knows how well our numbers would be as far as like the mortality rate.
Again, he would have gotten reelected if there was a 6 week shutdown, enough money for all the businesses to stay afloat, mandatory mask wearing, mandatory distancing. He would have gotten reelected. The numbers would be great as far as COVID. I mean, as good as they can be, and he would have mopped the floor with Biden.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
100%.
Shit, I would have voted for him if he had done that.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, because and that's the thing is like people have this excuse like, oh well, if it weren't for the virus, he would have been reelected, and it's like that's what you do when you're president. When shit hits the fan, we trust you to deal with it, and if you don't deal with it, exactly, and that's not an excuse.
And if you don't deal with it, we rig an election to make sure that somebody else will.
That's like if you get a job as the yeah, exactly. We have to rig an election. That's another thing that blows my mind is the fact that they think that more people wouldn't go out and vote in the middle of a life-changing, life-altering shared experience to get the guy that fucked it up out. That's like if a fire chief took the job, right, and then got fired, and he was like, well, I wouldn't have gotten fired if it weren't for that fire. Like, it's literally your job to take care of all the problems.
Yeah, you didn't start the fire, you just didn't put it out. Sorry.
Exactly. It doesn't matter who started the fire.
Yeah.
Why are we still blaming China year later?
The fire.
Do something. It might have been China's fault.
No, a bat started the fire.
That bat, man. Oof.
No, they just don't care. We don't have a culture of caring about innovation or anything anymore.
No.
It's not competitive, that is.
Right. We want we want to know which one's the best, and then we want to get that one. You made a good point about too, like the dreamers, stopping them. Statistically, it's the children of immigrants that are some of the most hardworking, like innovative minds.
Mm-hmm. They're all coming from Asia at this stage in our country's development.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of good ideas when it comes to like I feel like we need an influx of Eastern religion, like Eastern thought. Just like take it one thing at a time. But yeah, that like statistically speaking, most of our innovation comes from children of immigrants because they have something to prove. They want to earn their spot, and like that's what we need to focus on. Like, yeah, if I can come here, be a productive part of society, and we want you here. Don't be, and we don't. I don't care where you're from. Same thing. Fucking take responsibility for your shit, own your shit, and do stuff that's gonna make stuff better. That's simple.
Yeah.
We've convoluted it so it's like to this unrecognizable thing, but really this is just the game human beings and society is a game that human beings have made up. And we just kept adding rules and adding rules and adding rules until it's not the same game anymore. But it comes down to the basic, like, what are humans the best at evolutionarily speaking? as a species? What are we the best at? Do
Yeah,
that better
they're
every day. That's it.
they're playing, or we're playing chess, and they're playing Chinese checkers.
Hey, it's the
3D
weekend.
Chinese checkers.
Yeah.
We're playing Don't Wake Daddy.
Which is the Chinese chubby checkers.
They're playing chess and we're playing Don't Wake Daddy.
Don't Wake Daddy.
Dude, write that down.
Oh, I know. I tried that on Twitter, and it just no one thinks it's funny.
That's a good dude. I can
Yeah,
see you doing that on
I know, but it just, dude, I'm telling you, man. I have no. That's the thing. I can't put things on Twitter because then they die there, and then I am convinced that they suck.
Yeah.
I do have it written down though, so
yeah,
it's in my notes.
I could see it and hear it doing well because I just laughed at it, and that shit's funny. But I was talking to Scott, and he was like, I post stuff on social media all the time. I don't even look at how many likes I get anymore. I don't care. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just putting content out that I think people will enjoy, and if they choose to enjoy it or not is up to them. And I was like,
here's a great thing to address for tomorrow is comedians who use their Twitter accounts as notebooks.
Yeah.
Twitter account is not a notebook. A Twitter account is also not something you should be reading from when you're doing stand-up.
Right.
Or using as a gauge.
Right.
Some jokes that got 0 likes on Twitter have done really well on stage, and vice versa. Like,
you should only be posting jokes that would not work on a stage on Twitter.
Right. Think about the medium.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're just so eager to get it out there, though. You're like, I want to see if this like gains, because I think every tweet is like, well, I should say most tweets, if you're like certain people like me, where you're like, I hope this goes viral.
Yeah.
Like, just on the off chance.
Everybody has that in the back of their mind when they post a tweet. Like nobody gets Twitter and is like, this is going to be terrible.
That's why I tag celebrities to pretty much almost all of my tweets, or somebody who has a shitload of followers. Like, whether it's positive or negative, I'm going to tag somebody with a fuck ton of followers.
It's
like, what was one of my tweets was, if there was a new California, Red Hot Chili Peppers would have already written a song about it.
Unless it's the COVID California or whatever. Did you tag the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yeah, so I tagged the Red Hot Chili Peppers to that.
And did they respond?
No.
Well, what the fuck, Jeremy?
Because remember, they were like, oh, because Trump tried to file, election fraud in New California. And I was like, if there was a New California, Red Hot Chili Peppers would have already written a song about it.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened. And that was a thing.
Another thing, too, like, your tweets have, like, a cultural time and place. Like, just because you tweeted it doesn't mean it's going to work 2 or 3 days later.
Right.
Because it's not. It's really annoying watching comedians go like, I'm just going to read several of my tweets. Like,
I have compiled tweets before, but they were ready, like, to be told, like, they weren't like right off Twitter or something. They were like made into a set list.
So I thought this joke would go really well. But maybe it would do well on stage. I don't know. But Silento, the rapper Silento, he killed his cousin the other day. Okay? You know that rapper? Are you familiar with the guy? He had the song.
No, never heard of him.
Now watch me whip. Watch me nay nay. Well, it turns out nay nay was slang for shoot my cousin the whole time.
That's funny.
Nobody knew what it meant, and now I think we cracked the code.
Yes.
But it only got 3 likes, and it's like, man, I thought that was really funny.
No, that's a great joke.
I thought that was the one, but I don't give a fuck.
It's just funny. Like some jokes are just better, or some jokes are better live than they would be on Twitter, and vice versa. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. You know Joe Mackey. Well, they're not his tweets because he doesn't really tweet. But they're just like new jokes that he reads out of a notebook. That doesn't have anything to do with your point about using Twitter.
You know what's kind of funny too is that out of all the all the episodes that we've done, I've not learned at all where to find inspiration for a joke. Like if I'm just gonna sit down and I want to write 10 jokes, no one's really given me explicit like this is where I find inspiration to write those jokes.
Don't sit down to write jokes.
So
I think we covered that in a few episodes. I'm not sure with who, but a lot of times we talked about it with Brendan Eyre. When you sit down to like write something funny, you put too much pressure on yourself and it doesn't naturally come. Whereas if you sit down and write about like, oh, I've been really mad about traffic jams today. Like I got caught in traffic today, and then just sit down and write about traffic. Don't even try to be funny. Just write about it. And then like go back through it and see what you learn, see what you discover, see if you can find like a different point of view. Like there's any number of ways to do it. Sometimes it'll just hit you while you're walking through the mall. Why did I say, does anyone go to the mall? I don't know. Do you? Probably not. But if you end up at a mall and you walk by a Brookstone and you see a Chinese man in the massage chair, and then you walk back an hour and a half later and he's still there, like make that note in your phone and then come back to it. Like, you know, I've never written anything.
Then you go and ask the massage person about that Asian man, and they're like, what Asian man? You're like, whoa, weird day this has been.
Yeah.
An Asian man was stabbed here 6 years ago.
By a previous coworker of mine.
Yeah. About 100% of my jokes have been written from me.
As Bruce Willis.
No, just me like thinking of it as I'm just experiencing my life. I don't sit down or write anything down. It all has to come to me, and you just have to think about jokes enough for that to come to you. It doesn't start as you trying to think of a joke, but some sort of concept sparks your brain, and then, or just whatever, you get it.
Right.
No, I agree with you on that. And yes, that's how I get it, but sometimes it's just so far and in between. It's like,
yeah,
I need to.
It is. I haven't written jokes in months. Feels like I have written jokes, but nothing like classic. Nothing that's going to actually
move the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's filler and it's funny. It's just not super funny, or just not good context for it.
These last 2 months, I've been like, oh, well, since I'm not doing quite as much stand-up, I'll use this time to write new jokes. I've written maybe a new joke.
Yeah.
And it's probably not good because I can't even think of it right now. So it's not worth, you know what I mean? It's probably not a good joke.
Yeah.
I want you to stand on stage and say that. See, that's the thing. You write that shit down. That's where you find the funny. Like, you don't find it's just like being in a conversation with people. If you're trying to be funny, they don't want you in the conversation anymore. You're not like giving into the moment, you know?
Yeah.
You're thinking outside of this goes back, call back to the improv situation. If you're like making a comment on what's going on, you're not in on what's going on. And thus like you take yourself out of the group. Same thing goes with like being funny, is like you can't force it. You just have to like discover it and like talk about it. And when you're on stage and you don't have a punchline for something, like you want to give into those old habits, like try to be funny here, like try to be fun. Oh, this person said this in the crowd, try to be funny to respond, try to say something funny. That's too much pressure. You just gotta like ask questions, or like, I don't know, that's
why the crowd work show is so rough, especially if you're like the first or second person up there. Yeah, you have an open field of people because no one's, most of the crowd hasn't been tapped. Yeah. But they also, at that point, still aren't prepared to talk back to you. So it's hard to like do the crowd work show and going up first or second because they haven't opened up. They're still tight and reserved. They haven't realized that, like, oh, even though they said in the beginning, you can talk with a comedian. They're here to talk to you and have make jokes with you. They give you nothing, and you can't blame them either because a crowd or your typical comedy goer or your stand-up goer isn't an improv artist, so they're not going to yes and you in the way that you would hope that they would.
Ian Bagg is great at crowd work, and he has an episode. I mean, he does it differently because he has like scenarios planned out, but
he claims he doesn't, but it's bullshit.
Yeah, it is bullshit, but he makes it feel like it's not. So you like if you like we were talking about the other day with Brendan, if you have like an agenda, like a different agenda, like I don't know. Good one, David.
I see. That's why I like doing the crowd work show because it does stretch me as a comedian to kind of think more on my toes, stream consciousness, and who knows, I might even get a bit out of doing the crowd work show. So that's why I like doing it. It stretches me as a comedian, probably more so doing an open mic night.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't like having the expectation of doing crowd work. That kind of throws off the whole idea of crowd work for me, where it's like it gets real awkward real fast, and I overthink in the moment.
Me too.
So I don't actually like doing crowd work. It's not fun. That's why I like experimenting to see if I'll get better, but
by the time I'm ready to say anything, I've already convinced myself that's a shitty joke, and I shouldn't say that.
You need to write a game for it, like where you figure out a formula where you will always win, because it's kind of like magic tricks with the audience where you already kind of know where it's going, but you make it sound like you don't know where it's going. And not that you already know what to say, I'm just saying you know where to take it so that you almost always have something good to say.
Yeah.
Or you can ask, like, for instance, you can ask an audience member, like, what do you do for a living? And then you just like, you get something out of them, and then you go into it. You ask them a question related to a topic that you have jokes about, and you just keep doing that. And then that way, if you fail at improvising, you just go into that material.
That's normally what ends up happening for me, which I feel like I cheated myself and cheated the audience. But like, you're right. That's the way to do it.
But you got to make it sound like
you mean you're up there to be funny and make jokes. Like that's at the end of the day, that's your job.
Yeah.
And if they're giving you nothing, then you're gonna get nothing. So you got to make something out of it.
Guys,
you gotta make something out of nothing.
Yeah. I want to run a couple jokes by you guys real quick. They're really short.
Okay.
This is why. Well, okay. These aren't actually jokes.
You can't laugh at that.
Special thanks to Golden Ox Studio. You can find Golden Ox Studio for all your podcasting needs at goldenoxstudio.com. Hit up Gheramy. He is fantastic to work with, a professional. He makes podcasting easy. And if you've been kicking the tires on starting your own podcast, definitely give Golden Ox Studio a look. If you'd like to weigh in on today's topic, follow us on Twitter at YouCan'tLaughPod, or like us on Facebook at You Can't Laugh at That, and tell us how you did laugh at today's topic or how you didn't. This is all about the conversation, is what I'm saying. All right. Bye.